What's up, y'all? Alright, here's a scenario for you. You wake up, it's a beautiful day outside, the sun's shining, the birds are chirping, and you want to go fishing. So you go down to the dock, or you go hook the boat up to the truck, and you go set out to the lake or ocean. And you get there, and you turn the key, and you hear nothing. Or you hear click, 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 click. Oh no, the boat's dead. Oh my God, your whole day is ruined. So what could you have done to prevent this from ever happening to begin with? Well, first thing you want to do is make sure that your boat's stator or alternator is working properly. That way it'll charge your battery while you're driving the boat. If that's in good shape, then you probably let the boat sit too long without being used because that'll drain your battery too. So the only way to prevent your battery from getting drained is to have a battery charger hooked up to it when you're not using it, which makes sense because it'll trickle charge it so you don't have to worry about it. This is really important in the winter when your battery just sits there and your boat just sits there and it's never being used because it's too cold outside. Well, you want to make sure that you have something on your battery because if you don't have a constant source of electricity topping off the battery, these things will run dead, and once they run dead, they're pretty much useless. So you can try to bring them back to life and stuff, but it never really works. Once they run dead, completely dead, and I mean completely dead, there's usually no bringing them back. You have to buy a new one, and they're like, for a cheap Walmart battery like this, it's like $80 for the battery. So if you have a whole bank of batteries, like for a trolling motor on like a bass boat or something, you definitely don't want to let those things run dead because it will be expensive to replace. So you want a battery tender or a battery trickle charger, they're also called, or a battery float charger. They're all basically the same thing. Now this one right here is a battery charger and a battery maintainer. That's also another name for these things too, maintainer. It's all the same thing. It's just marketing speak, but it all does the same thing. You can see it's got the slow charge, the medium charge, and then the fast charge. And each one of these is like, maybe 1 amp, 5 amps, 10 amps. You can see this is a 10 amp unit. They also make this one in like a 15 amp. And then, they have ones that'll actually jump the boat or truck. It'll actually jump it, and it's like 50 amps or something, and it'll also charge it. But you don't need all that fancy stuff just to maintain boat batteries. All you really need is a cheap one. They make them and sell them down at Walmart or Amazon, anywhere, really. And I don't have one here because I use this, but it's just a little box, and it plugs in to the outlet, and you just hook the alligator clips on your battery, and it'll just maintain the charge so you don't have to worry about it. They cost like $10, $15. They're real cheap. I mean, I was down at Walmart not long ago and they were like $10. But check the description. I'll put links down there where y'all can find these things cheap on Amazon. Just order one and just hook it up to your batteries. That way they stay charged over the winter when you're not using the boat. Now in the summertime, you really don't need any of these things because you're using your boat. So it should stay topped off. If it doesn't, then that's a whole nother video entirely because you got something wrong with your motor that you need to address. But in the wintertime, once your boat's winterized, I especially want to make sure that this thing's hooked up to something that's keeping it maintained because there's nothing worse than in the summertime, once winter's over, de-winterizing your boat and having to go and buy new batteries. I mean, this is a cheap one. If you go and buy like, Deca or something like that that's expensive, I mean, you're paying hundreds of bucks for batteries. I mean, it's stupid. These things last for a long time if you take care of them. So just make sure you have something hooked up to it, a trickle charger, whatever you want to call it. That way it maintains the voltage at all times so that this battery stays in good condition. Now, there's different types of chargers. A trickle charger is only going to maintain the charge that's already there, basically. So, if you have a battery that's kind of run down and been sitting and stuff, it might bring it back up to where it's supposed to be. It might not. But you might need something a little bit more heavy duty, like an actual battery charger. And that's what this is. It charges it and it maintains it. So once the charge is all the way up, you can see you hook it up and then it'll tell you when it's charging, and then it'll stop charging, and then it'll just keep a constant voltage on it to maintain the charge. So that's why this one's pretty handy. It's got different modes, like I said. It's got the slow, the medium, the fast, and I just put it on slow because, there's no need really for me to crank this thing up and get it charged fast. It doesn't really matter as long as it's done. And then it's got standard, which is just a standard battery. Then it's got absorb glass matte, and then it's got gel. And typically, if you got a cheap boat battery, it's going to be a standard battery. If you've got like absorb glass matte, that's like the really high dollar batteries, the really expensive ones like, Optima and stuff. Those are absorb glass matte batteries. Those are the ones that, they say you can't top them off with water and all that stuff. Once they're filled for life, and that's it. They have basically like fiberglass, and the electrolyte gets soaked into the fiberglass, and once it's there permanently. It doesn't come out, it doesn't evaporate and stuff. It's soaked in it permanently. So that's what type those are. And gel, that's completely different. I mean, you're not going to run into a gel battery for a boat probably. But typically, standard battery is, traditional wet cell battery is what you have for an outboard or a truck or any of that stuff, unless you're spending a lot of money. And if you're spending a lot of money on boat batteries, you probably already have a pretty advanced charging system set up in your boat. Now, the easiest way to do this is just, get the little trickle charger. It looks like a standard, just little plastic box with 2 cords coming out of it, just like this, but smaller. And it comes out from the outlet, goes into the little box, comes into the battery, and you can just put it in the corner of the shop. Or, if you've got a garage kept boat, just dangle it over the side, an extension cord, and just have it hooked up with the battery in there. I mean, it's safe to leave it plugged up all the time. It's just a very, very small amount of electricity to keep it charged. I mean, you can get crazy with it. You can, if your boat is really nice and it has it's really well set up, you can have the little red cutoff thing where you turn it and shuts off the batteries, and you can wire it in to make sure that, they're off and it's charging through that. You can have all different ways to set it up, but basically just make sure, this is the simplest way to do it, just have it plugged in somehow. That way your battery does not run dead, because there is nothing worse than waking up early, hooking the truck up, going to the lake, getting it in the water, and then click, 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 or, nothing. I mean, there's nothing worse than that. So then you got to try to jump it with your truck, or, just give up for the day, which most people probably wouldn't do, but try to turn the truck around and jump it with the truck, and then hope it stays charged over the day from the motor. You don't have to do any of that if you just have it hooked up, when you're not using it. And if you have a dock, run the line down to the dock, an extension cord, and just throw the thing in and hook it up and just leave it hooked up when you're not using the boat. Or if it's on a lift, boat lift, plug the thing into the dock, hook the lines into the battery, and just let it sit there when you're not using it. I mean, in the summer, it doesn't really matter if you use it once a week or multiple times a week or whatever. But if you want, you could set up some type of plug, where you can just plug it in, or you can just clip it on like this and just make sure it stays charged. So there's really no reason to have your battery run dead on your boat. If you just get one of these things and just hook it up and let it sit, hook it up when you're done with it and make sure it stays charged. That way you never have that problem. Now these things are completely automatic like this. It'll ramp up, charge, then it'll shut off, and then it'll maintain the voltage. And it has like a fan in it, overheat protection, over voltage protection. It's not like the old time chargers, where it's like a big metal box and it's got a big old transformer in it and stuff, and it hums and all that. These things are way more advanced than those. Those are old school. These things, you don't really have to worry about them at all. I mean, it even has protection on it. You can see the red right there. If you hook the terminals up backwards, it'll let you know and it'll cut off. It won't charge at all. So, you know, these newer electronic chargers, there's really nothing to worry about with leaving them hooked up. Just make sure they're away from gas and stuff, you know, be smart with it. And when you're plugging and unplugging them, you don't want the sparks and stuff near gas, because sometimes they can spark a little bit when you're unplugging them and plugging it on. And you can see it just kicked on there. So yeah, there's nothing to it. Just get a battery tender, hook it up, and let it sit. You don't have to do anything. Just make sure it's plugged in. That way your battery's charged all the time. You don't have to worry about your boat going dead, any of that stuff. Thanks for watching, y'all. Don't forget to check the description, because I'll put links to battery chargers and tenders in the description where y'all can just click them and order them from Amazon. That way you don't have to go searching all over the place. I'll put them right down in the description for you. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more outboard videos. Later.